Introducing Ivan Petrovich Pavlov. Pavlov was born in Ryazan, Russia in 1849 and passed away in 1936 at the age of 87. Who is Pavlov? Well, his family had a history of priests. His father was a teacher of languages, specifically Greek and Latin. Later he was a priest, along with his brothers and Pavlov's uncles that were also priests. Even though it is known both uncles may have been wild cards, they were disciplined for their drinking from the bottle. Pavlov's mother, who he was very fond of, and referred to as mistakenly being overprotective for loving. She was also the daughter of a priest. Pavlov was an educated man and even changed career directions through this time. You can see why with his family of history and priesthood, he enrolled in the local ecclesiastical high school. After that, the Ryazan Theological Seminary for a career in priesthood. Then in 1870, he changed directions and enrolled in the Military Medical Academy at St. Petersburg. Such a rebel, there he studied natural science. Pavlov completed his degree in natural science and continued on to a degree in medicine. Such an impressive young man he was that he was a teacher to students and a director of a small laboratory before he even received his own medical degree. Pavlov continued on to Germany for 2 years where he studied physiology with Karl Ludwig at the University of Leipzig. These positivism teachings had a lasting effect on Pavlov, since Pavlov found facts more important than theories. Pavlov was eventually appointed professor of physiology at St. Petersburg Military Medical Academy at the age of 41 years old. Pavlov was considered a hero of the revolution. Before Pavlov had any interest in psychology, he researched digestion. Until then, the way of researching digestion was on dead or traumatized animals. Pavlov did not see this as an adequate way of getting the information needed. He knew of a person that had suffered a severe gunshot wound and left the digestive organs observable. This led Pavlov to the idea of observing a gastric fibula from the outside of a dog's body. This eventually led him to a 1904 Nobel Prize in Physiology. Through this research, Pavlov discovered the conditioned reflex, unconditioned reflex, triggered by the unconditioned stimulus, as well as the unconditioned response. One example of these responses was his discovery when placing food powder in a hungry dog's mouth. He noticed that the dog's saliva increased. The food powder is the unconditioned stimulus, and the increased salivation is the unconditioned response. Other works of Pavlov's research included excitation and inhibition, experimental neurosis, and the first and second signal system. Pavlov's personality inside the lab was known to be strict but fair. His students were fond of him. He encouraged women and Jewish folks even into the lab. This was something not looked upon positively at these times. He had one thing he absolutely did not tolerate in the lab, and this was mentalistic terminology. Big no-no in Pavlov's eyes. However, outside the lab, he appeared fun and enjoyed spoiling his fiancée with flowers, theater tickets, and candy. Though he was not known for buying items like clothing and shoes, furniture, things like that, he did one time for his wife, Sarah, buy her a pair of shoes for a trip that she was going on. When she looked into her trunk for them, she found only one with a note that said, Don't look for your other shoe. I took it as a remembrance of you and have put it on my desk. From Pavlov. In conclusion, Pavlov's opinion of psychologists was not the best.